Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Dark Side of the Word. We weed out the good, the bad, the creepy, so you don't have to. Join us as we discuss our latest book club reads and content recommendations. All topics are dissected and debated from a creative's perspective. New episodes are posted every second and last Thursday of the month. Watch Dark Side of the Word on YouTube or listen to the audio-only version on iHeart, Apple, and Spotify. Hello, friends. We are back for another episode. We are here. We have smiles on our faces. And we're going to talk about the Bog Wife today. The Bog.
I don't have my copy because I already returned it to the library.
Because CJ is cool and gets all of her books from the library, unlike me, who already ran out of one shelf here. That's already full. I had to go. Here's my update.
Yeah.
When we moved into this house, I used my existing bookshelves from Seattle, if anyone recognizes them. But I have room for 2 more shelves, and I have started running out of room due to the book sale in town. And I went and bought pieces to make and extend the bookshelves.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Well, I was deathly afraid about this because this is all riveting news, as we all know. I was deathly afraid because, as you can see, these are just in color. I've painted all my bookshelves myself, and I was really afraid that I would not be able to match the color, to be dead honest. And I was like, oh God, how accurate is this going to be? So I took my big old bookshelf, one of the shelves in, and I was like, please. You know what? The guy who did it,
They're amazing. They're wizards.
it was freaking amazing. I can tell that there's the slightest, and I'm talking minuscule difference because I noticed, but I'm shook. Also, I was like, I don't really want to go through the pain of painting these like I did before. What can you recommend? And he did a Sherwin-Williams 1-coat paint, has the primer in it because these are raw wood when you get them. And holy shit, I did 1 fucking coat.
Nice. Very nice. That is awesome.
Yeah. So what I was dreading turned into a very quick
DIY
thing. Yeah. So now the hard part is what I thought was going to be the painting being the hard part. Now we get to the real hard part, which is emptying all the bookshelves so I can attach this one. So that means taking all the books off. And
I always feel like I love the idea of a painting project until I start painting whatever piece of furniture, and I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna need more than 1 coat, and this has to dry completely before the 1 coat. And you live in Florida where there's humidity, so that's got to be a pain in the ass. Yeah,
it's non-humid season, so it was it's the perfect time to do anything. We haven't reached our rainy season. Super humidity hasn't set in. I know we had a week of really hot weather, and everyone's like, summer's here, but we're back in the low 80s again. So it's been heaven.
Well, I'm excited to see your extra bookcases.
Because the book sale's in another week, so I'm gonna...
Another book sale? I thought you just had one.
It's twice a year.
I thought the twice a year was 3 weeks ago. No, it's been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's always in April and October.
Oh, it was October. That's right.
Remember,
Wow,
it was April 1st yesterday.
Yeah, I know. The concept of time is what is that Seal song? The time keeps on slipping.
Time keeps on slipping. Okay, that's all we're gonna get, so we don't get demonetized.
Yes, so that is how I feel. Okay, so yeah, that was in October. Then it's been a while. I'm excited for your books then.
I know, I've had 6 months to plan what I want to look for. And with my new sudden interest in folklore, honey, I'm going to go hunting. I'm going to be hunting.
Okay. Good luck. Good hunting. Godspeed.
How about you, friend? Do you have a bookshelf news updates? Are you actually going to get a bookshelf?
No, I'm not going to get a bookshelf. I have my 1 bookshelf. Books? That is it. I dusted it the other day. I was like, oh, these are nice to have, and that's about it. I have a little book cart. I don't know if you can see it. I have a little book cart over there, but that is for my little free library stuff. So I'm always putting that out in the little free library and bringing it to my book swap. But that's really the only other books that I have around
I
the
don't know how you
house.
do it.
It feels better without clutter.
This isn't clutter.
For
I
me, it feels clutter. It never used to, but now it feels. My house is so tiny, it feels cluttery.
I am a book dragon. I collect and sit on my hoard.
I know. If I had a room that I could make into an actual library, I would do it. But and like my husband offered to build shelves like behind me for it, like you have there, and I stupidly said no. I'm not sure why. But I think because I've enjoyed the money I've saved not buying books, I'm going to be honest, because it's an expensive hobby. It can rack up. And I really enjoy getting them from the library. Like it makes me happy when I get an email saying a book has come in for me that I requested. It's like a little Christmas every time. So I would miss that thrill. And like when I do buy books or I get them for even for free from my book swap, they kind of just like languish in the cupboard because I want to read my library books first. I'm not as excited to read the ones that I actually buy.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about how many shelves are to be read. We're not going to talk about that. Remember, I'm a
Yeah.
book dragon, not a bookworm. Like it
Yeah.
happens. And my reading ability has like stupidly lessened this year. Like my ability to sit and just read nonstop. So I'm
Yeah.
not going through them as quickly. So I signed up for, oh no, one of the big five publishers did this whole new survey group thing that you could like sign up for, and I did, and they were asking me questions. And they asked, how many books have you read in the last month? And I was like, oh God, it's going to be like 1 to 4. I hate this range. And they're like, and I appreciated the question right after, which was, is this a normal number for you? And I was like, no, it's not. Thank you. Okay,
That's
thank you. I read so much
nice.
more.
Yes, I like that had the follow-up question.
Yeah, because I'm like, this is not my
Hmm.
reality. Life has just happened. I promise.
Yeah. See, I would just lie and be like, this is not normal, so I'm just going to put it at whatever it is I normally read per month. And like,
I don't,
yes, that is
I
normal.
can't tell a lie.
I can tell lies if I need to.
I
That's a
can't.
need to situation, I think.
Also, I'm just like, the bangs are not banging today.
I like them.
Well, thank you. But all right, enough about me. You friend.
So I am preparing. Actually, I am very excited. So I do those virtual bake-alongs I think I've told you about before, where I work with Jenny Fields, who's online pastry chef, is her website. And we do these bake-alongs where she posts a recipe from her site. She makes it, posts videos. I make it, I post videos. And it's supposed to encourage people to try baking new things that seem difficult but really aren't. So this one coming up at the end of April, she is bringing on a guest chef slash cookbook person. And she and I were talking the other day, and she's like, oh, my friend Nancy, who lives in the area. And I'm like, oh, okay, Nancy. And she's like, yeah, she has a couple cookbooks. She does a lot of baking and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm like, what's her name? She goes, Nancy McDermott. And I'm like, that name sounds really familiar to me. And Jenny's like, oh yeah, she has this one book called Southern Cakes. I'm like, Southern Cakes? This is a book I picked up on my honeymoon in New Orleans. I have made so many recipes from this book. It is like a Bible for me. Nancy McDermott of Southern Cakes is going to be on the bake along with me. I am now in a text message chat with this author. Like, what is my life? This is absolutely insane. So this is happening at the end of this month. I am very excited for that. We're making a jelly roll cake, which I have never made
Ooh.
before, and I'm anxious. I'm anxious as fuck because I have to roll a cake, and I've
Is it
never
like
done that.
Swiss roll?
Yeah, it's like a Swiss roll.
Oh, okay.
Have you done that before?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Was it hard?
No, you just got to do it right when you take it out of the oven, just like they do in Great British Baking.
Okay. Yeah.
You got to,
Yeah.
take the towel and get it, nice and wrapped up.
I've been watching episodes where they do that and paying special attention. I've been watching the Canadian Bake Off too and paying special attention to anything with a Swiss roll. So I am going to be making that. And Nancy McDermott's going to be filming with Jenny her videos, and then we will all be in a bake along Zoom call together. And I'm just like,
Hopefully, you will like your idols.
yes, I'm sure I will. She seems lovely over text. She's been very sweet, very kind, very helpful, and I am very excited for this.
Do you
And I
have
hope
any specific questions you're going to just ask her for yourself?
Oh God, no, I didn't even think about that yet. I've already embarrassed myself a little bit by telling her how much I loved her lemon curd recipe. I was like, I made your lemon curd recipe and I brought it over to my friend's house and we sat there eating ginger snaps and dipping them in the lemon curd and being like, oh my God, this is so good. And she's still talking to me, so that's nice.
Good. I forgot to turn off my phone.
I did not. My phone is off like a good little podcaster.
Well, I'm glad that you have something so exciting to look forward to at
Me
the end
too.
of the month. That's exciting.
Me too. I need something exciting. So that is, I'm going to be, in the next week or two, I'm going to be making the cake. It's a vanilla sponge cake.
Okay.
And the filling I'm going to do is I'm going to make a passion fruit white chocolate whipped cream filling.
Okay. So what are you going to make it look? Are you going to leave it like bare on the outside? Or are you going to cover it to make it look like a swish roll?
I'm going to leave it bare on the outside and then sprinkle like some powdered sugar on top.
Are you going to do like designs like they do in the great?
No.
It's not that hard.
No. I am rolling a cake for the first time. I do not need to add anything more intense to it.
No, all you do is you just put some food coloring into a little bit of cake, make a design, put it in the freezer, then pour your rest of your batter. That's it.
Ugh, I can't. I'm too nervous to do just the cake itself and roll it. Maybe another time. Maybe another time.
Okay.
Passion fruit white chocolate filling. That's pretty fancy for me. So that's where my fanciness is going. It's all on the inside. The beauty is on the inside.
I wish I was there to try it.
I know. I wish you were too.
I feel like that we say that every time you talk about your cooking. I'm just like, why am I not trying? Mm-hmm. But maybe it's good I'm not because I am trying to lose weight. So we would not be friends anymore.
Yeah, my Zumba class and my neighbors can only take so much cake. I've had to stop doling it around quite as much because it's getting a little intense.
What ended your friendship? The cake.
The cakes. The cakes she kept shoving upon me. Yeah, it can be a problem.
And over here, I've just been a busy little bee. I have gotten back to writing as even in the midst of all this, I just do like 30 minutes a day because that's about like what my life can hold.
Okay.
But it's going, I mean, I get like a couple pages done. That's a couple pages off of 300 and something odd pages that I have.
That's true.
So
that's a good way to look at it.
Because it's just the editing phase. I always hate it when people will go, just write the words because then, you can't edit nothing. You need just to have something on the page. And I'm always like, okay, so now I have something on the page, but I still gotta fucking work with that something, and I can't do that either. Yeah. So, no.
I'm not a fan of that. Just get something out. No, it's gotta be a little bit more, like, pointed,
And I would love it. I really doubt this is going to happen just because life is throwing massive curveballs. But I would love to get this book out by the end of the year. I really would.
You can do it.
I know. Or at least like the process of doing the publishing.
Just get it started, yeah.
Maybe like not a date this year, but like, I don't know. Even though that nonfiction realm is looking mighty fine right now.
Seriously, maybe I should focus on doing a cookbook of my own or something like that, because if that's the advances one is getting for nonfiction these days, it doesn't pay to be creative.
Yeah, CJ and I are referring to Amy from Inspired to Write, being very transparent. We love her for that. Nothing against her, but she was being transparent about the royalties to her book that was published a couple weeks ago. And yeah, that was interesting. Apparently, I mean, it's paid out after 4 years, so she's not just getting that in one lump sum, but still, that's a life-changing number.
And if you're wondering what that number is for her non-fiction deal, she got a $300,000 advance. That's like what a house costs. And her fiction book got a $10,000 advance. Anybody listening right now, I'm moving my hands in a scale weighing gesture, like, what are we going to do?
I know.
Yeah. So we need to come up with some kind of like theory where we just give like a TED talk or something and make a book out of it, and then relax on our laurels and just bring in the riches.
Well, I have quite a few nonfiction book ideas, so maybe I just need to jump into one of those.
Okay, you do that. I'll be your agent for those, and I'll get a commission because I don't think I have a nonfiction book in me.
Or just help me co-write it. It'd be great. I can use your English background. It'll be perfect.
Okay, that works for me. We're deal done.
Well, I think that's enough rambling from us, enough catch-up time, because we all know why everyone is really here, and that is for us to talk about the Bog Wife and to discuss our thoughts on it. So, before we get into all that, just a second. If you're new to the podcast, then welcome! We love having you here. We want to take a second to go over a few things about our episodes. 1. Dark Side of the Word is hosted by Kait and CJ, two writers and creatives who can't get enough books, shows, movies, or podcasts about all things dark and creepy. 2, we're generally a book club podcast, meaning that we will be discussing the book in the episode title. There will be detailed spoilers, so if you haven't read the book yet, you might want to click away and check out our other episodes. 3, we love exploring stories with haunted houses, dark academics gone rogue, serial killer thrillers, reimagined monsters and myths, and so much more. 4, this also means that we're going to be discussing mature and sometimes triggering content, whatever the themes are featured in the book. If you're underage and you don't think that your parents are going to like you reading the book, then they're probably not going to like you listening to this podcast. Otherwise, thank you again for listening, and we hope you enjoyed the episode. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss a book, and use the comment section to continue the conversation or share your thoughts. It's time to discuss the Bog Wife, and I'll be the one holding it up for everyone. Before I read the synopsis of the thing, I actually really liked the cover.
The cover is gorgeous. I love the cover as well.
I know, and once you read the book, you kind of like, especially the fact that they picked those plants. I find that very
I like the dirt on the flesh. It's very good. I thought that was excellent cover. I dare say the cover might have been my favorite thing about it.
All right, well let's read the synopsis from the book.
All right.
Since time immemorial, the Hadsley family has tended the cranberry bog. In exchange, the bog sustains them. The staunch seasons of their lives are governed by a strict covenant that is renewed each generation with the ritual sacrifice of their patriarch, and in return, the bog produces a Bog Wife. Brought to life from vegetation, this woman is meant to carry on the family line. But when the bog fails or refuses to honor the bargain, the Hadsleys, a group of discordant siblings, will grieve the mother who mysteriously disappeared years earlier, face an unknown future. Middle child Wenna, summoned back to the dilapidated family manor just as her marriage is collapsing, believes the Hadsleys must abandon their patrimony. Patrimony? Patrimony?
Patrimony? I don't know. Patrimony. Go.
Her siblings are not so easily persuaded. Eldest daughter Ida, de facto head of the household, seeks to salvage the compact by desecrating it. Younger son Percy retreats into the wilderness in a dangerous bid to summon his own Bog Wife. And as youngest daughter Nora takes desperate measures to keep her warring siblings together, fledgling patriarch Charlie uncovers a disturbing secret that casts doubt over everything the family has ever believed about itself. Brimming with aching loss and the universal struggle between honoring family commitments and the drive to strike out on one's own, the Bog Wife is a haunting invocation of the arcane power and the habits and habitats that bind us.
Yep, that's what that was.
I am good. I want to say one thing before we give our rating.
Okay.
But I forgot, the premise and synopsis of this book.
Okay.
I haven't actually, reviewed it since we picked it up. So when I opened it and I got through the first 5 pages, I was like, oh my god, I love it. It's set in Scotland.
Yes.
And all this stuff. And I even was giving emoji updates as I was reading it on Instagram. And I put the Scottish flag and all this stuff. And then I was like, wait, oh shit, this is in the Appalachian Mountains. Which then I remember is why we even picked the book.
Yes.
Because Appalachian horror is this really fun subgenre of horror that's starting to come out, and I was appreciating it, and then I felt like I betrayed the book in a way, and it betrayed my family a little bit. Because my grandpa's from the Appalachian Mountains, and I was like, okay, sorry about that everyone, I lied. It's not Scotland. West Virginia.
What book were you thinking it was? Or did you just think it was set in
No,
Scotland?
because they were talking about the bog, and I'm like, Scotland, and then they were like, I think with the way that it opened and the father telling the stories and the children huddling, I don't know, it
Okay,
came
yeah.
very,
Yeah.
the very first vibe of the book, if you don't know what it is a Scottish, like, 1800s. Like,
Yeah. It's awesome.
yeah, so that's, yeah. So I apologize to everyone for my misinformation
Like
on the internet.
what is she reading? She's reading a different book than I'm reading.
But yeah, so let us revert back to tradition and give our ratings for everyone. And CJ, what is your rating of the book?
Okay, I gave The Bog Wife 2 stars. Was it the worst book I've ever read? No. Did I like it? No. That's there we are. What did you give it?
Do you want to guess?
2.
Yes, actually.
Ha!
Okay, so we are agreeing on a book.
We are agreeing on a book.
Pigs are flying.
Yep.
And yeah, something got tilted on its head. Some salt was thrown wrong because we're agreeing. However, I am very close to changing my rating to 1 star.
I am on the edge as well. It was like hovering between like a 1.5 and a 2. And I feel like the entire time I was reading this, I just kept thinking about you when you were going to start reading this. And you're going to be like, okay, my main question about this book is this horror? And I think we should change the name of our podcast from Dark Side of the Word to Is This Horror? Because we just seem to read a lot of books where we're like, is this horror? I don't know. I feel like we've read a lot of books where we have this question, but this one for me is at the top of the list of, is this actually horror? I'm going to say no.
I did double check when I went to go buy it because I was want to do it. I was like, is this in the horror section? Because for some moment, like, I did not find it in the horror section. I was like, shit, is this in the literary fiction section? What the fuck? And no, it just turned out to be on a display case. Okay. So, yes, it is very much considered horror in the realm. And it's funny you should say all of that because I ended up on a Reddit Reddit page where people were actually discussing whether or not this book was horror.
I feel like it is not horror at all.
I agree and disagree, only for one caveat of that someone made a good point, and I do think that this is a subgenre that should exist, but they called it cozy horror. I like that idea.
I love that idea. I just don't think this is it.
You don't think it's cozy horror?
Okay, so let's get into my main thing here, is that I found this book so claustrophobic. Like, nothing about this was cozy to me, and I admire what the author did. So this is one of the things I appreciate about what the author did with this book, is that the family dynamic to me came across as so oppressive, so restrictive, so insular, so backwards. I felt trapped in this family, in this house, in this life. I absolutely hated that feeling. So, like, for me, there was no cozy vibes at all.
I think that the description of, like, cozy horror is the idea that the setting is extremely horror. All the visceral feelings you're feeling are what make it, like, more of the horror, but what makes it the cozy side is, like, nothing innately extremely scary happens. So you kind of, like, can read this book in the complete comfort of being, like, the world's not going to, like, completely disintegrate and a monster's not going to jump out of the shadows, but I still feel visceral feelings of horror and dread and ugh.
I don't know. Not even when the mom came out of the ground and was basically like a walking, talking, mummified corpse, did I feel like this touched on any bit of horror. And so I feel like there's just nothing horrific about it. And I was disappointed because I wanted something a little scary. And by the time we got to something that could be scary, I just wasn't scared. I was bored. And it didn't even come out as scary. It was kind of like, what the fuck is going on? And, you know, I feel like this happened with our other Appalachian horror story, The Woods All Black.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm wondering, is Appalachian folk horror just like this, where it's not actually horror, like quintessential scary horror, but just folk stories that you're like, these people are a little fucking weird?
I thought the Appalachian stories and the monsters that, you know, all this fairy tale folk stories that come out of it, it's supposed to be really scary.
Yeah, I
And
was
it's
hoping
not
for more
happening.
scares. I was really hoping for more scares. And I'm sad. Like, I was really disappointed with this book.
Now, I don't know if you had the same feeling I did at the beginning. When I started this book, which in the last couple books I've read, I feel so bamboozled because two of my last books started out where I was like, this is going to be the greatest book ever.
Yep.
This is going to be
Yep.
5 stars. I'm obsessed. Oh my God. And then you get like a third of the way and you're like, drop a star, drop a star, drop it. And then by the time you end, you're just like, I don't got any stars anymore.
Yes, that is exactly how it was for me.
And I started this book and I was like, this book, holy shit, like, oh my God, the writing, like, I was in it, I was in the setting, I felt everything, and then it was just like, what was it, the point that Wenna came home, I think is when I started. I don't remember entirely, but I was just like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah. I held on for a little bit longer than that, but then at some point I realized that nothing spooky is gonna happen. I guess that's what I'm looking for, spooky. And nothing spooky was gonna happen. I was waiting for a full-on Bog Wife to emerge. I'm really upset that a true Bog Wife did not emerge. I wanted an undead bog woman walking around, and the mother at the end doesn't count for me because I have questions about that too. But that was an opportunity to make everything really creepy as fuck, and it didn't happen. And I was hoping for undead Bog Wife.
Or at least Percy to get, like, actually, when he was starting to build the body and was supposed to, like, with the sticks and the blood and the mud and all that stuff, and that was supposed to turn into a human body, and the fact that, like, I wanted that to be a person.
Yes, and walk around and scare the crap out of everybody. Yes. Yeah, and having good old mom come out of the dirt wasn't exactly what I was hoping for, and that's what we ended up getting.
So if we remove the narrative quality of the book and like the writing style and her descriptions, which I loved, and I think that's the only reason it got 2 stars instead of 1.
Yeah.
This book, literally, I closed the last page and got into a really long discussion with my partner because I just sat there and I was like, why did I even read this book? What was the point? What was the plot? There's nothing about this book that existed whatsoever. There was no character arc. The entire premise... There's my thumbs up again. There's no character arc. The entire premise is based around one stupid question about the wife. Like, that's the entire tension of the whole book. And then you get to the end and you're just like, what is the covenant? How did we get here? How does this even start? Where...
I had a lot of questions. Usually I have like what I like, what I didn't like, and my remaining questions about the book. And I think my biggest section of notes is remaining questions I have about the book.
Yeah, because there's just no one had any arc. Everyone was still the same and then acted on who they were from the very beginning of the book and became, I would say, worse versions of themselves. We don't even know if one is like, guy's gonna come save her, Michael or whatever. We don't even have any answers about the future of the property. Like, they're living in a fucking shed. Like, so the bog's gonna disappear and the trees are gonna go in? Like, they didn't even decide the covenant, how the new covenant was gonna be whatsoever.
Yeah.
So yeah, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
So one of the things I did is I did a little research about the author. And this answers so many questions. I think this is like her third full-length novel, but she is a very, very prolific short story writer. And if you look at this in the idea of a short story, short stories are snapshots. You don't need answers. You're just in one tense moment. You dropped into a moment.
Which annoys me about short stories.
Exactly. And then you get pulled out. And that's the thing about this book is it's like she did a long-ended short story and dropped you in, but she didn't give any payoff whatsoever. And
I totally see that. Skeleton. That makes sense. Yeah.
It was a skeleton. And so many people love this book when I was looking at it. And they're all talking about like the psychology of the people and like the abusive family and the dynamics and all this stuff. And I can understand why people might like that. But my problem is one, I didn't care about any of those dynamics. And 2, they felt like skeleton versions of not real people because nothing happened, nothing changed, and she did not put the effort for me into crafting layered people.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to say that.
So in terms of the psychology and stuff, so one of the things that I liked about the book, in the sense how the author did it, and this is probably going to come out wrong and somebody's probably going to come at me, but I don't know how else to say it except to say it. So I'm just going to say it. So Appalachia is considered, hillbilly territory, backwards, hicks and rednecks and all that. And I feel like this story and the story created this family is a gigantic metaphor for all of those Appalachian stereotypes that she has done brilliantly. They're not just ignorant, uneducated people. They're not just backwards. They're all doing this way of life to preserve this family history, this compact, and this generational secret. And everything that this family does is a great explanation for why the backward people, quotes, are so backward and uncomfortable. Like the part where later on, Percy is talking about his confusion about the Bog Wife and the mom. He thinks the Bog Wife is calling to him. He's in love with the Bog Wife. Oh my God. And turns out to be his mom. I feel like that's a metaphor for how a lot of people think that, the Appalachian hillbillies are inbred and incestuous and stuff. Like that's kind of a tie to that. And then you have, only the men are educated in the French language. The women have to stay home. They're never intended to marry. That's a lot of, kind of metaphors to how, organized religion can keep you, down in a certain way. And I thought it was shedding a really interesting light on that whole myth and stereotype of the Appalachian hillbilly and making it more, I don't know if believable, but more of a background, not just being ridiculous. They actually have this family thing that they've handed down for generations that keeps them this way, that keeps the women subservient, keeps them uneducated, and just keeps, moving the male line along. So I like that. However, I hated this entire family. They annoyed the fuck out of me, and I hated how ignorant, how lazy, how they couldn't even make a dinner. They had hot chocolate for dinner. They couldn't even be adult enough to make actual food. They didn't want the tree taken out of the house because they're complete weird hoarders. And it just triggered so much shit for me, and I did not give a crap about what happened to these people. If I were Wenna, I would have thrown a match on the whole damn thing and walked away.
No, but she came back and stayed. And now started living in a shed with goats.
Yeah, she has freaking Stockholm syndrome because she just went back there and now loves her little weird captors. And I hate that she went back to them, and that pissed me off too. So I had a lot of issues with the family.
I really also wish that they had made it clear that they poisoned their father. It took me a while to actually finally have that feeling confirmed that he didn't just die, he was poisoned.
I knew he drank something, but I didn't know if it was poison or just something to kind of numb him to drowning in the bog. They were all way too cavalier about poisoning their dad and sending him adrift in the bog. They were also way too cavalier about Charlie wading into the bog and standing next to his dead father floating in the bog. And it should not have surprised me when they were also cavalier about mom coming out of the bog 20 years later. But they were. And I was like, how are we not questioning what's going on here? Why are we okay with mom's corpse coming back out all of a sudden? I don't know. It's a weird little family, and they bothered the crap out of me.
Yeah, I also just need to know how it all started to begin with. How did the Bog get this ability to animate a creature? Why did it become important for the Bog to be able to have kids that were half human and half Bog creature? When did that become important to the Bog?
And during a lot of the book, I kept going, okay, if dad is human and mom is from the Bog and mom is some kind of vegetable Bog creature, yes, how are the kids not more vegetable Bog-like? They can't just be regular human. They have to be kind of boggy too. And why aren't we talking about that? And it isn't until the very end of the novel where Nora and Percy start getting all rooted into the earth that they actually address that. And I'm glad they did address it, but I feel like that was just a question I had throughout all of the book. Did that bother
Well,
you at all too, or no?
it hadn't crossed my mind to be honest. But also, shouldn't they, like, in a way, be more, every generation be more Bog too? Because the kid of, also, and in a way, isn't that still incest? Because they keep
Mm.
proliferating from the same source of
Bog.
mother.
The same bog. It's
But
like
why
going
was the
back to the same
point?
breeder.
It's like this some weird. Did they describe? Did they describe the covenant? Right? What are we
Hmm.
calling this? Compact? Is that what
Compact.
sorry? Did they do the compact because the mother said when the bog was first created, the compact came with whatever the first seeds came into the
Hmm.
water, right? So
Something like
was
that.
that her way of describing, like, we kept changing and making new compacts with the new
Hmm.
life and vegetation that was coming in, and so then we had humans come in, so we had to make a new compact, which meant we had to become part us and part human, and that is why they're now becoming part bog and part
Right.
tree.
Yeah, something like that.
That
I
that
I don't know. I don't know. It felt very jumbled to me. It didn't really make a lot of sense. I also had a theory about everything that happened at the end. So, like, when the mom started coming back, I didn't fully expect her to be alive again when the body emerged. I thought that the bog sludge had, like, somehow preserved her body, like in the My Darling Dreadful Thing,
yeah.
how it kind of preserves it, and then when the body's coming up, the body, when it dies, it can release air, things can move. So like bog sludge was like moving her around and like making her seem to breathe, and I was like, oh, that's what's happening. And then she started walking and talking. I'm like, oh no, she's back, she is back full on. Holy crap. Okay. But then I started to wonder, was this a group hallucination because of the mushroom trespassers that the bog kept having? Like, we cared a lot about these mushroom trespassers.
Which still
And
weren't even talked about at
huh?
which weren't even explained at the end.
No.
Anyway.
But I'm like wondering if maybe they all emitted some kind of weird hallucinogenic property that they think mom, like maybe they found mom's body because dad shoved her in there like 20 years ago and she rose to the surface, and Percy had been out there on the edge of starvation and hypothermia. Of course he's going to be a little wackadoo about what he's seeing and experiencing. So he thinks he sees mom coming back to life, goes out and gets his family, who's just a little bit wackadoo like he is, and then they all start to inhale the poison mushroom trespasser gas, and they all see what he kind of sees.
Well, in a way,
And
they also had reached the point of, like, hypothermia and
yeah, that's true. That's
starving
true
too,
because of the
because
storm.
the storm happened and that they found her the next day. That's interesting because the
Hmm.
way they describe how, like, she would stop talking for days and we just thought it was fine, and then they would, like, pose her and put flowers around her and make it this
Yeah.
whole.
So
Maybe
I'm
she.
like, maybe it's not really happening. And then, Nora
Yeah.
and Percy decide to just let themselves waste away, becoming part of the earth again because they were just affected that much by the poison gas that they just decided they were becoming part of the earth. But really, they're dying.
See, that would have been such a better ending. Is like we continue this on, and then Michael comes and discovers all this, and
My
then it would
God,
have been
yes.
like, it's a dead body. Like, you guys look. Blah.
Like, Wenna, what the fuck? Like your whole family just strewn around the bog here in various states of decomposition, and you're ready to join them. Yeah, that would have
So does
been.
that mean they've been kidnapping the wives the whole time?
That was another theory I had. Do you want to hear my theory?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I had a theory until like the bog mom showed up that all the bog wives were kidnapped human beings, and that the way Charlie goes into the bog and doesn't find his wife, maybe not finding her is this ritual and rite of passage. Like maybe all the men, that all the sons get there after like drowning their dad and find no wife waiting, and they have to figure out how to get a bog wife of their own. And the only generational secret is that there is no bog wife, just a horrible family who commits crime after crime to keep their people's race going. Also would have been a good part to the book, I think.
Because they also just made it very clear the town. Well, first off, the last name is very infamous with, like, the house and stuff, or so they were told. Even though I
Yeah.
think that was partly a lie,
Yeah.
because the last name wasn't the same.
Because nobody seemed to care what their name was either when they said it.
But they also think that the house is practically empty and just doesn't, like, it's just not a thing. The other theory I had when the mom showed up was the idea that, which grossed me out, but, like, also fed into it, like, what if it was the same, like, person every time, and so it was just that they then married their mom. Yeah.
Ew,
You know?
yeah. But that would go along with that whole like inbred, incestuous, Appalachian folk thing. Yeah, that could be the explanation of why there's that theory about it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that would work too.
It's just, yeah, this book's a lot. This book was a lot.
And yet not enough at the same time. I just wanted more creepiness. I want to know what Wenna's therapist thinks about all this.
Was she even a character in the book? I
thought she was going to come into play more, because how do you therapy somebody with Wenna's belief system? Because I feel like Wenna still clearly believed in all these rituals, because she went back to the dad. So even though she escaped and she went away, she went running right back there.
It wasn't even just that. She made like a slight mention how she would constantly go to like the retention ponds or the equivalent in her neighborhood to sit, and she couldn't be away from the water.
I'm assuming she didn't tell her therapist the actual rituals, because her therapist would have had her committed and or sent like Dyfus or something down there to go check out what's happening at the family home,
How did Wenna even, like, there's no documentation about this person whatsoever. How did she, in modern times, have the ability to do anything from marriage to any of this legal documentation? Like, I know how hard it is because I was, like, homeschooled growing up, right? And so I have a very small government footprint. And when I tried to get my first job and I tried to go through all this stuff, it was very hard at first because they were just like, you don't exist. And I do. I have all the evidence, but here she doesn't. And I was just like, how did you, did you actually legally get married or was it not? And, like, why did the papers matter? Because you have, like, no Social Security or anything to put in for a marriage license. Like,
that's true. I guess she would be treated like an undocumented citizen or something like that. You can't get married. You can, because I know people who have done it, but you have to go through a lawyer. It's very complicated, because I know somebody who did it. But
why didn't Michael ask questions? Did Michael exist?
I don't know.
I guess because of the letters. But, like,
and
then how did she just be like, come to my house and see my siblings rooted to the ground, and this isn't weird whatsoever?
And she's staying there. Like, she's staying there. Why are you staying there?
But is she, or is she just waiting for Michael to come get her?
I don't know. Yeah, that was my question. Is she staying there? What's happening with that and the bog?
Is she ready to have a kid now? Is that what, like, she's fine now because Ida's
Michael, run. Do not get tangled up with this family's DNA.
Also, the whole, like, Ida back of the bar.
That was probably my favorite part of the entire book, when she was at the bar trying to get laid. Because she was just so businesslike and practical and mentioning, like, what copulation and stuff. And I'm like, this is hilarious. I will read a whole book about Etta trying to get laid.
I honestly thought, because of the description of the guy yelling at her after the first time and all this stuff, that she didn't actually have sex with him and that something else happened, because he was mad and she's like, oh, I had sex. And so this whole time she thinks that she's, like, getting pregnant, and she's not, because she didn't actually know how to have sex.
That was the best part of the whole book, was Etta trying to do that and make that happen.
And the same with Charlie. Like, he just disappears and he just randomly sends back money at the end, how did he also suddenly find a way to exist in the world?
I mean, you can do it with lots of cash stuff, but, like, when I first started reading the book, I remember thinking, why does her family need this bog so much? Why are her siblings harping on this so much? They've seen Wenna go out and make a life. Like, Wenna's, and then we haven't learned much about Wenna yet, but I'm thinking, Wenna went out, she got a job, she got married, she has a car or whatever. Like, she's being a person out there. She's doing really well for herself. So why don't these ones think they can do the exact same thing? And then we learn that Wenna had a weird series of jobs, that she had a failed marriage, that all this stuff was happening. I'm like, well, maybe Wenna hasn't done so well for herself out there, and I can see why they're all scared to leave the bog. But I don't know. Just Wenna. I like her name a lot. Wenna, it's a really cool name, but she's a very disappointing character.
Yeah. Again, no arc. Her arc was that she came back. Her character arc is that she fell into the trap again and didn't actually break free.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. What do you think about Charlie and all the stuff and the fact that like it literally felt like the bog was trying to kill him and be like, I don't want this guy.
I feel like the bog is a very misunderstood creature in the book. The bog's just existing, and all these people think the bog means so much more to them than it actually does. The bog's just being a bog, you know?
I mean, bogs are technically, if you think about like the folklore of Scotland and England and all these areas about bogs, they are very scary places full of scary monsters that you don't want to be in. They are not nice people. So why would this bog be nice here?
Yeah, what's it getting from them? I don't know.
Because like it eats, like you could eat, you know how easy it is to die in a bog? You just fall in, it sucks you under, you're dead.
Thank God. That sounds awful. I haven't really looked up much about bogs, and I don't think I want to, actually.
I feel like they play a big part in like old classic literature from, you know, very Jane Eyre-ish books.
I always think of the moors for that kind of stuff.
Well, I think the moors are bogs, aren't they?
Moors are like mountain areas, I think. Bog is like swamp.
Yeah, but
moor isn't swamp, I don't think.
But I thought they were...
I don't know.
Thought they were bogs.
I don't know.
Like a Scottish... Hold on.
Okay.
Are moors bogs? Are moors and bogs? A moor is a type of open, uncultivated land often associated with bogs.
Damn it. Okay.
And characterized by low-growing vegetation and acidic soils. It's frequently found in upland areas and is dominated by heather and other similar plants. It can be wet with bog-like peat vegetation or drier with heather and other associated vegetables. But the point is it has those areas where you can like sink in and die and your body gets preserved and, you know.
Interesting.
Yeah. That's why they're always scary and they're like, don't run away, you could sink and die.
I once read this story online about this river or like a creek in England somewhere, and there are signs all around the creek that saying do not jump over this creek. And apparently the creek's like this big. It's like a foot wide or something like that. It's minuscule. But apparently people have jumped it and misjudged it or has fell or something, and they slip down into this crevice and they never come out again. Like this thing is deep as fuck. And they just never come back. And this is true. This isn't like a legend. This is true. Like I've seen the photos and stuff, and there's like news stories about it. People just disappearing into the earth in this little innocent seeming creek. And that just reminds me like the bog too. So if you see any signs around a creek that say don't jump the creek, don't do it.
Don't jump the creek. All right, this is your PSA. If you listen to anything, this is what you need to
avoid the bog and don't jump the creek.
Now, I don't know about you, but the other thing that got me really annoyed, and probably where it started like losing its stars, was the fact that it took me a really long time to understand the time period of this book.
Yes,
and I would have liked a clear picture at the beginning of where this is set. And I get that the house is not really updated and they do a lot, but I feel that there's still little things that you could say or do, or like, why couldn't, I guess because they didn't have internet, but there are still little things you could point at. They could have pointed at the fact that there were light switches because they used lights as well, you know, cooking dinner on a stove. There are things I feel like they could have done to really pinpoint the time frame faster than, I don't know, way too far into the book.
And the way the book started, too, it seemed very, 1700s, 1800s. And then I thought maybe we're like in the 80s or the 70s. And then it wasn't until Wenna showed up that she mentioned like cell phones. I'm like, oh, this is present day.
No, my cell phone stopped working. Walmart.
Yeah.
And then by then I was just too lost into it being a different time period that when the reality of that it's an our time period was thrown in my face, I got so discombobulated that I was just like, I can't read this anymore.
Something I thought too is that the siblings all sounded like each other. There was no distinct voice for me. I could have been reading, the only thing that told me I was reading a different character was the introductory page saying, this is now Etta, this is now Charlie, or whoever. They had no distinct personalities for me.
Yeah, and I don't think the fact that it was written, it's in third person, I think. Yeah, that it's written in third person either, that helped. Because that definitely kept like a distance from the writing as well. I feel like if we had some English major on here, there would be like all this literally talk about characters and interactions and psychology, and I don't know.
I mean, maybe there is, but I don't know. I think I was too upset that there wasn't spooky stuff happening, and that when an undead creature did finally make an appearance, all she did was sit there
And
and
root
get
herself to
flowers
the
put
ground.
around her.
No,
Yeah.
I believe that the story is a group hallucination.
Yeah? You
Yeah.
going with that?
I believe, I like that. And I would like to live in a world that is the case so I can
Yeah.
move on from this book.
Yeah.
And I mean, the whole family clearly has some sort of mental illness as well, because it even harkens back to the guy in
Yes.
the 1800s who started it.
Yeah.
Which, no surprise, we all knew. Can we not say we all knew something was up and wrong and not accurate to what they were being brought up with?
Yes.
So when, like, Charlie takes the globe to the
Yeah.
dealer, it's just like, oh, really? It's from, like, the 1897. Okay, no. Oh, that didn't surprise me. Thanks.
Yeah. I mean, the earth-shattering, revolution that there is no compact, that it's all bullshit, and this was all just some story isn't really a surprise, It reminded me a lot of, I feel like I always mention a Buffy episode, like in every episode we
Because
do.
you're a super fan.
But it reminded me so much of the episode in Buffy in season 4 or 5, maybe 5, where Tara's family comes back for like one episode. That has Amy Adams in it, by the way, in a very early role, and as her sister. And they tell her, like, oh, you have to come home with the family because when you turn 20, the women in the family have monster in them. So we are the only ones to, make you keep it in line. And then Buffy and Spike discover that that's all bullshit and it's just a myth to keep the family women in line.
Mm-hmm.
It just reminded me a lot of that whole thing where it's just all trying to preserve this way and you just pass the story down generation to generation, but everybody, there's always people who know it's bullshit, and they're just trying to hide it.
We should make that a new part of segment of the podcast where you have to come up with how you can tie this book into Buffy.
I know. I feel like it happens way more than it actually should.
No, I really would like you to do it every episode.
There's too much pressure. I cannot do it every episode. But it'll probably come up naturally anyway, like every other episode.
No, but seriously, should consider changing the name of this podcast to Is This Horror? Because clearly, like, this name's not working for rebrand anyone.
I have to say that I am very hesitant to read another Appalachian folk horror story because now there's two that were supposed to be really good and really creepy, and they were well-written stories, great writing, but not at all spooky.
Disturbed me a little bit.
I mean, that disturbed me because there was panther sex in there. Yeah. There was bestiality, but I don't find that spooky. I just find that a little odd for my tastes.
So, listeners, if you're wondering which book we're talking about, and you can go check it out in our book club episodes, we're talking about The Woods All Black. This is the other Appalachian book.
It's very handy to have that bookshelf right behind you there.
I know. That's why I put them there, so people can see all the books that we've read. And now I'm going to have to take over this bookshelf because that is now full. So, and, just a nice little book stack there if anyone wants to look at that one.
I put my copy of The Woods All Black in my little free library, and I was like, I wonder if I should put, like, a warning on this.
Bestiality. Is it gone now?
I think I brought it to Book Swap because no one was taking it from the little free library, so I just put it on the Book Swap table. I'm like, there's an eclectic group here. Someone's going to appreciate this one.
Oh, God. And then they come back and they're like, what did I read?
Like, who brought this here?
Yeah, well, sadly this will go on the shelf and I will continue to own it because, it was a podcast book.
Mm-hmm.
And that means that, I have to keep it for all time now.
But yeah, I know I want to read more Appalachian folk horror, but I am scared. So, listeners, if you have an Appalachian folk horror story that actually is spooky and scary, please recommend it to us.
Or good. Yeah, I think it has to have like a very suck you in synopsis or something that really tracks us for us to do this again. We're trying to be diverse, but our diversity, if we're bored, like, okay, we gave it 2 chances.
Yeah. I want to love it. Because I was listening to a podcast and they talked about Appalachian folk tales and they talked about a creature and I'm like, oh my God, that sounds terrifying. And I loved it. I wanted to read something with that. And I'm like, all right, I can get behind this whole concept. Yeah, I want to learn more. And I'm not learning more.
Maybe you need to write the book.
Maybe you need to write the book.
Yeah, I do have Appalachian.
folk horror person. I think you're being called to do this with
Yeah,
the Appalachian family background.
my grandfather used to run moonshine.
There you go. I think it's built in.
Yeah, maybe.
You need to do it. Just reclaim the genre.
All right, friend, are you going to change your rating?
No. I'll keep it at 2 because there were some good things about it as a piece of literature. It just did not appeal to me.
Yeah, probably. I'm too lazy to go change it.
Yeah.
Now that I have 2 book tracking apps, that seems like a lot.
I wouldn't recommend this to anybody, though.
No.
Not for horror, obviously, but also not for a great read either.
No, it wasn't a fully fleshed out book because she's a short story writer and she needs to stay in short stories.
Yeah, or finish the long story appropriately.
All right, are we excited and ready to announce our next book?
I don't know, man. I'm scared, to be honest.
Well, this one, it blurbs the nightmare is real. So.
Okay. I forget what we're reading.
Listen to Your Sister.
Yes.
By Nina Viel.
How you spell
Viel.
Viel.
Viel?
Vile? Vile sounds good because it sounds creepy. Like you're a vile, sinister person.
Oh, let's try to get the ring light to not. Okay, hopefully someone got it. There we go. I like that.
There we go.
Okay, so reading the back. Let's see. They do say that it is for those who love Jordan Peele, and I love Jordan Peele.
Okay, I like Jordan Peele.
All right. Until he did Nope. Nope pissed me off. But anyway. 25-year-old every time I see a double L, all I want to do is Spanish, make it Spanish. So let me try not to.
You do it. What is the name?
I want to say Kaya. But it's Kala, probably. Calla.
Oh, yeah, Kala.
Yeah.
But you can call her Kaya. That's fine.
25-year-old Kala Williams is struggling since becoming guardian to her brother Jamie. Callie is overwhelmed and tired of being the one who makes sacrifices to keep the family together. Jamie, full of good-natured 16-year-old recklessness, is usually off fighting for what matters to him or getting into mischief, often at the same time. Dre, their brother, promised he would help raise Jamie, but now that the ink is dry on the paperwork, in classic middle child fashion, he's off doing his own thing. And through it all, the nightmare never stops haunting Kala, recurring images of her brothers dying that she is powerless to stop. When Jamie's actions at a protest spiral out of control, the siblings must go on the run, taking refuge in a remote cabin that looks like it belongs on a slasher movie poster rather than on Airbnb. The siblings now face a new threat where their lives and reality hang in the balance. Kala always warned her brothers about her nightmares. They really should have listened.
Dun, dun, dun.
It's a little different. I'm excited because it's different than anything that we've read in a little while.
It is.
I'm a little worried about it. I'm not going to say why, but I'm a little worried about it.
Is it set in Appalachia?
I don't think so. No.
I missed the setting. Maybe if it's in like West Virginia, maybe we should just give it a pass.
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
but I'm very excited about that, and we have another author interview scheduled and set. So keep an eye out to listen to that. It'll be released in June. I'm not going to tell you guys yet because I'm going to try to string you along. We got to do something to get this podcast somewhere, which is my call to action to make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast and this episode, because doing that helps us reach other listeners who also want to hear about our thoughts on all of these books. So thank you so much, friends, for listening. We can't wait to see you next time. Make sure, again, to rate, review, and subscribe on YouTube, or do our audio-only version on Spotify, Apple, and iHeart. Thank you so much. Happy reading!